Today, we have a relationship expert here on the show to teach us more about how we can take our relationships to the next level. So stay tuned. Hey parents, welcome to Fulfillment Therapy. Do you want to raise your kids better and have a stronger marriage? Are you up late at night researching marriage and parenting tools and self-care tips? Do you start each day hoping for deeper connections and less chaos, but it ends with family arguments and going 12 different directions again? My name's Kendra, wife, mom, therapist, and growth enthusiast. It wasn't until I discovered how to fulfill my unmet needs that I was finally able to show up as my best self as a spouse and parent. I realized that by meeting my needs, I could more fully meet the needs of my family with more energy and less resentment. In this podcast, I teach parents skills like boundary setting, prioritizing personal needs, communication, and claiming ownership. Just like my clients, you'll be shocked by the improvement in your marriage, parenting, and personal life when you focus on fulfilling your important unmet needs. Ready to prioritize yourself so you can quit mentally throat punching people? Then grab those earbuds and head outside, and let's walk and talk. Hey, my friends, before we jump into our episode today, don't forget to check out fulfillmenttherapy.org if you are interested in coaching. We have incredible coaching you can sign up for at any time, either from one of my team members or from me. So check that out on our website if you want to take your mental health and wellness to the next level and you want someone you can trust to do that for you. Now let's jump into the show. Welcome back to Fulfillment Therapy. Today we have a special guest, Stephanie Wiekstrom, here with us, and she's a licensed counselor and is the founder of the Counseling and Wellness Center of Pittsburgh, where she leads a team of over 110 professionals in providing holistic mental health and wellness services. She's a relationship expert and author of Creating Relationship Wellness, which offers mindfulness-based techniques for couples, and the 2024 children's book, Where Did You Come From? Celebrating family diversity. So outside of her professional work, Stephanie enjoys yoga, meditation, and connecting with nature. So thank you again for coming on the show with us, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here. And I know we have a pretty cool lineup to discuss. So I'm just so happy to be here today. Thank you.
Of course. Can you just tell us in your own words a little bit about you and why you got into this space?
Mental health care has been a huge focus of mine, really, since childhood. I suffered from some OCD as a child, and in being supported and helped through that diagnosis as a child, it really, at a very early age, put me on the trajectory to appreciate how recovery is possible and what excellent mental health care looks like. Through my whole adult life, I've really been motivated to continue and grow that mission. And in my own education, I've been absolutely fascinated with somatic work, breath work, yoga. I'm a yoga teacher as well. And seeing how I've been able to put those two philosophies side by side to really accelerate healing is really what the foundation of what we do at the Counseling Center of Pittsburgh. And now, in furthering that mission, it's been just really something special to allow it to take such a different shape, such a bigger shape than I could have initially anticipated by growing my team and having all of these other perspectives that such a large team has brought to it. So it's really just been such an amazing thing to be a part of and to watch grow.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it's quite large. So 110 professionals. How do you manage that with your own life? That's a pretty big team.
One breath at a time, right?
I suppose so.
Yeah. So definitely I think for any person who's really passionate about what they're doing, it does take over your life. And so My work is a big part of what I do, and being very disciplined in making sure that I guess it's not even like I have to make sure I complete my stuff because I'm just built for conscientiousness. And so I'm the kind of person like I can't really finish my day until I've met all of my marks for it. I think for me at this point in my career, helping myself to back off a little bit of my own goals is where I need to work more than on working more, if that makes sense.
It does. If you wouldn't mind, can I ask you a little bit about OCD as a child? You mentioned you have. So walk us through that a little bit. I know this is something that a lot of listeners have asked about, and it can be complicated, like knowing how you can get through that. So any hope or a direction or anything of your story you want to share?
Yeah, I think there's been a big difference in the way that OCD is treated now compared to 25 or 30 years ago. And it's a very fortunate thing. We're actually working on some things right now that our company is going to be bringing on TMS, transcranial magnetic stimulation. And TMS does have a protocol for the treatment of OCD as well as major depression in children. So the OCD treatment is specific for adults, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the very near future, if they do open it up for children, children are such a protected class. It's a little more difficult to get approval in treatments for them as it should be. So I'm very excited for the promise that TMS brings to the treatment of OCD. I actually was able to try OCD as a non-patient last week. So I'm like shopping through these different devices. And as a part of a sales demo, they let me have a treatment of it. And it was amazing. And even with just one treatment, a typical treatment course of TMS is actually like 36 sessions. I just did one, but even from that one, I did feel like a little less. Any person who is wired for OCD is also going to be a little bit more of an anxious person. And I think that's something that a reality that needs to be embraced throughout their lifespan. We can disrupt those obsessive compulsive thoughts and behaviors that go together, that symptom constellation that we call OCD, but having a more energized sort of constitution and one that's a little bit more aware of dangers and thinking through at times a repetitive nature. So we have what is the symptomology of a disease. And then we also have what is a characterological kind of personality type, right? And so for any person who has any disorder, every person falls in a spectrum of the way that you're wired and the non-pathological side of that can even be some of your greatest strength whenever it's not activated as a disorder, if that makes sense. But in being able to have that treatment, I was even more motivated and excited for what we're going to be doing over the summer. So that's one TMS, one treatment for OCD, and exposure and response therapy is another more modern treatment for OCD. It depends on exactly what form of OCD that you have too. For people who might have contamination fears or health anxiety kinds of fears can be an especially effective way to reduce that, where you really are stimulating the person to have that anxiety response and then giving them coping skills so that they're able to regulate that anxiety independent of the behaviors that formerly are actually embedding that anxiety further in their brain. So if I'm afraid of the spider, if I see the spider, then I need to do 5 hand washes to prevent myself from being infected with its venom. So, you know, that's something that those hand washes reduce the anxiety of the person who has OCD. But instead, if we show them, okay, here is the spider, and now we're going to take a breath. We're going to use progressive muscle relaxation. We're going to do some stretching. We are going to reframe the way that our mind is processing those thoughts, right? And we're going to do more positive self-talk in the face of that anxiety. So having a intervention that is customized for the person and exposing them to that and empowering them to know that they don't need to do those behaviors in order to reduce the anxiety is really where a lot of the current treatment hovers. And that's very effective. So ERP, as we call it, exposure response therapy, is a wonderful way to reduce OCD symptoms.
That'll be helpful for those that are seeking therapy, wondering what types of things they can do for OCD. But I'm curious, how did you make that jump from, okay, maybe as a child struggling with OCD, being interested in some of those things, and then now, current day, being a relationship expert and running this huge team, like especially the
Yeah.
aspect? How did you jump into that, and why was that appealing to you?
Yeah. So it's a good question. Really started to focus on I knew I was interested in psychology as a student, but like actually doing therapy is a little bit of a different track. So I was inspired through a course that was an honors literature, and it was the psychoanalysis of literature. So there I learned what happens on the psychoanalytic couch. And that was my first big leap of, yeah, I want to not just study psychology, but I really want to help people by being a psychotherapist. I got into psychoanalysis originally. So that's like the OG of mental health care. And Sigmund Freud was the father of modern day psychotherapy. But even in that, when we look at what is happening in any form of psychotherapy, it's a relational intervention. I think that is the first space where we are really understanding that something therapeutic happens whenever two people come together with the idea or the vision for healing. From there, I think just got very interested in things like sex therapy, things like marriage counseling, and helping people to have better relationships. It became something that I was very interested in and quickly excelled at and started helping a lot of people to improve their relationships. Now it's all about how can I help my team to develop those skills and watching them pass that tradition on to other members of our community is where I get to work. And I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, it's such a fulfilling field for sure. Just spreading those ripples with so many families, so many relationships. Absolutely. If you wouldn't mind, our listeners are always looking to improve their mental health, their wellness, their
Mhm.
relationships. So, when it comes to relationships, what are a few things that you see with your clientele or in everything that you've been doing that are really game changing for them? Simple things that they can do to improve those relationships.
Yeah, so conflict resolution, and there are so many different conflict resolution styles that a person might bring to a therapist, and understanding what is your conflict resolution style, how does that interact with your partner's conflict resolution style? And sometimes that conflict resolution style, I don't resolve conflict. Right? And people who don't know how to resolve conflict, and there are actually a lot of people like this, they might avoid conflict and bottle their emotions and present very passive. But we know that somebody who presents that way is actually, it's a mask, and their true emotions are going to be like bubbling under the surface and then popping up in very unhealthy ways. So that the conflict avoider is going to be one conflict resolution style. And then we have other folks who might be too comfortable with conflict, right? Or they're escalators and they're blowing up every opportunity they get. They're up in arms about everything, or maybe they're even extremely aggressive and people are walking on eggshells around them because they're fearful of their reactions. Understanding how you and your partner, what is your individual constitution, is going to help you to build a good conflict resolution plan. So what I mean by conflict resolution plan is, what are you going to do whenever something difficult comes up? So often that starts with regulating yourself and being honest with what you're actually feeling, and then enacting really good emotional hygiene. So that again can be things like fitness, breath work, sewing, coloring, whatever it is that speaks to you that helps you calm down whenever you're stressed out. Personally, I love bubble baths and fitness. I've heard people say working on my car, right? So It's just really important to have something that works for you. And from there, you actually need to put that intervention together and use it. So if you are somebody who says hurtful things whenever you're upset, right, you need to actually put your plan in place by saying, "Hi, I need to take a break here. I am upset." A recommended amount of time to have a break from the onset of a triggering topic until the resolution of it could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 24 hours. So then we need to say, "Hey, I'm upset here. I want to talk about this and explore it with you, but I can't do that right now. So I'm going to take 20 minutes." Then in 20 minutes, you need to come back and have a thoughtful and targeted conversation about what went wrong, and how are you going to do it differently in the future. If you can sprinkle in some validation in that conversation, that would be even more helpful. Validation is when we are acknowledging what our partner is saying and what makes sense about their reality. Those pieces together can really put a relationship in a better space, because most of the people that come into couples therapy fall into a few different buckets. Conflict and what they call bad communication is a pretty big bucket. So a lot of couples struggle with that. And that's just one little trick to get things in a little bit of a better direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I see with a lot of my clients as well. But coming up with a very specific resolution plan is what I hear you saying. And if you can put that validation in there, and that can be hard for a lot of people. I'll raise my hand there. Sometimes
Mm.
that's hard for me.
Hard. Yeah. And I think it's hard for even the most seasoned professional to put that in, to make it happen whenever it really counts. And it requires our constant sort of attention and discipline and the decision that we make to be loving partners or loving parents or whatever relationship we're investing ourselves in is an everyday decision.
Yeah. And especially what a lot of clients tell me, and I feel too, is it can be very easy for kids or for strangers, but when it comes to your partner, that can be much more challenging. Definitely gets a little more activating. So you talked about your conflict resolution style. What if people are like, I don't really know what mine is? Do you have a simple way for them to figure out what theirs is?
Yeah. So do you move toward conflict? Or are you somebody who tries to avoid it? And I think just knowing if you're avoiding or moving toward it is going to help you, give you a little clue as to what your style might be. And from there, in thinking about how comfortable are you to have conversations about the things that matter to you. Are you somebody who always puts everybody else's needs first, or are you pretty comfortable to be very direct about what your expectations are? So those kinds of things can help you to really look at that a little bit more in depth, because one thing, human beings, we are not always very good narrators and historians of our realities. I think we try to know ourselves, but that's not always where therapy is such a helpful tool, because how many people, it sounds like you're a clinician too. And whenever they step into the room, I think that they're one way. A good example is people who are very altruistic. They often view themselves as very selfish, and it can be very surprising. And I think people who think that, oh, I'm so difficult, or these high expectations, but really they're super gentle and very loving and focused on the people around them. But I think the more that we have those expectations of ourselves, the more that the bar is so high that we don't realize how giving or sensitive or gentle we might be. So it's often really good to get that third hand perspective that can come from a good friend or an awesome therapist.
Oh, absolutely. My husband is actually a counselor as well, and that's been a lot of fun. I would say the first half of our marriage, we've been married almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
The first part of it, he would pursue me and I would naturally run the more that he pursued. We both like to talk about these things. We're both in the mental health field, but recognizing we needed our space, like you talked about, it could be 20 minutes to 24 hours. Sometimes I'm even a little bit more than 24 hours where I like processing my feelings, trying to sort out what's mine, what's his. And that did take some fine tuning and allowing space for that and recognizing one isn't necessarily better than the other, but respecting that on both sides. And that really was like a very simple game changer for us both, allowing for that so that we could have that productive conversation, that conflict resolution plan that actually worked. And do you see things like that yourself or with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also really hard to hold that space, right? I had a situation that came up with my partner recently, and he needed some time to think through his response to things. I know I've told probably thousands of people, you need to have that space process. And then when somebody's telling you, okay, but I don't have an answer for this right now, you're just like, had to wait like 48 hours. But the nice thing about 48 hours, though, is you kind of start forgetting about the immediacy of that need with that length of time. And time does some wonderful things in reframing what we feel is important in one moment. And as we settle down a little bit, we think so much more calmly, and time becomes such a great ally. So
Absolutely. And in the beginning, you can feel like it can feel so devastating to wait that time as time goes on. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't feel quite that way. Just one quick question for you. One last question. When it comes to you personally, how have you created greater fulfillment in your life in ways that could help listeners?
Wow, that's a great question. So for me, the fulfillment in my life really is the relationships that I have in it. If I can, on the days and weeks when I'm able to achieve a really good balance of time for the people that I care about, meaningful time whenever I'm really engaged as a parent, that's extremely special to me. And I think mostly every parent will tell you that the sacrifices that they make and the time that they make is such a fulfilling thing, and really the things that I do for my kids, but then also for myself. And I do practice a lot of self-care and daily fitness, daily weight training routines, daily hiking as often as the weather in Pittsburgh allows it, and getting outdoors. It's even better if I can couple those kinds of things with my children and enjoying those kinds of very spiritually, physically nurturing things. So having a good balance is hard for me as a yogi. I know that I'm always wiggling around in my balancing poses, and that becomes a metaphor for my whole life because I am an energetic and passionate person. So I do like to go all in on things, but then I have to pull myself back a little bit because I'm always needing to remind myself to go a little more slowly, and more balance will make it better. So I think the more that any person can be aware of their needs and abilities to build great, enduring relationships with their family members and taking good care of themselves. And I'm extremely fortunate in my life that my basic needs are very well taken care of. I'm an able-bodied and I have a great life. So all of those things that some people might, the basic needs, after you get through that, it really becomes about emotional fulfillment, psychological fulfillment, and relational fulfillment. And so I think those are the things that work for me.
Yeah, I love that. I'm a big believer in nature, physical fitness, all of those things I really try to do. And now with the weather changing more, I just feel like my battery's filling back up. It feels so natural and easy, but not in January and February. It's good to keep those habits up for sure. So thank you so much for sharing those things and go with us today.
Thank you for having me. You're so nice to talk to. So thanks for having me.
Hey, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that relationship expert that can help you deepen your relationship fulfillment. Don't forget to check out fulfillmenttherapy.org, where we have blog posts for every single episode, so you can go back and access those at any time. And if you are interested in being part of our team, you can email us at hello@fulfillmenttherapy.org and get all of the perks with the courses, incredible training, and more. Thanks again for joining us today. As always, we'll have new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Until then. Hey friends, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, chances are someone else would too. Would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who's looking for greater family fulfillment? And while you're sharing, tell me what you think about the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It refuels me when I hear this podcast is helping you, no matter what your house or your hair looks like. I'll meet you back here every Monday and Thursday morning for more episodes. Until then.